and welcome to Head On with Minaz Merchant, our current affairs show that puts the facts first and then builds the narrative around those facts, as should be the case. And today again we have Vatsala Mendonça de Souza, a senior journalist and author, and today we're going to talk, Vatsala, about the elections, which are just about a month and a quarter away, and what the issues that will determine the outcome of these elections. So if you've got your questions ready, we can go.
In the light of what has happened in the past few weeks, do you feel that national security and terrorism will overshadow issues like development, farmers' distress, jobs?
Yeah, I think, Vatsala, it's very clear. What's happened in the past few weeks, particularly the Baloch attack, there's absolutely no doubt that national security, the whole concept of nationalism, all of that is going to be the main issue in the elections, which people thought were many months away, but they're not. They're going to be held in about 5 weeks, and the Election Commission will be announcing the poll days quite soon. National security, terrorism, Pakistan, all of these are going to be, the main issues. That doesn't mean that the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, can afford to, neglect issues of development, jobs, farmer distress. All of these will be brought up by the opposition, unquestionably, because the Congress has worked out a strategy, and they realize that if they go on and on about Baloch and terrorism and questioning the government about the strikes, effective, not effective, hit the target, didn't hit the target, how many people killed, etc. When they go on questioning the government and in fact the armed forces, the Air Force, they're going to lose out. So they are switching their strategy to the jobs situation, farmer distress, the whole rural question, and other issues like that, where Mr. Modi might find it difficult in a certain way. So yes, the Modi, the Modi strategy is definitely going to be to focus on national security, a strong, powerful leader who can secure India from threats, external threats. But he is also going to, and he's doing it already, he's also going to have to inevitably talk about development and his performance in the past 5 years. And development will be a plank that he will focus on, because the opposition is going to force him to do it in any case, and he's got some good things. But there are many things which are also not so good in his favor, like on taxes, on structural reforms, on labor and land reforms. On many of these issues, he hasn't been the kind of change maker that people thought he would be. So incremental reforms, yes, he's done that. Schemes and executing a lot of stuff, digital India, startup India, as I said, sanitation, health insurance, and so on. All that's terrific. But he's going to have to focus on jobs, the figures that have come out, which are not very flattering, and on also governance issues like not having a Lokpal in place after 5 years. So these are issues that he will have to confront while he goes on the national security plank, as you mentioned.
What about Ram Mandir and other Hindutva?
Well, the Supreme Court has now more or less decided that it's going to be the order, which is actually coming out tomorrow, and we are shooting this today, so we don't know what the order is going to be, but I'm pretty sure the order is going to be, of course, it's mediation that they've gone for, and they're going to order the mediation in a particular way. So this is going to be a long drawn-out process. It's not going to happen before the elections, and I think everyone knows that. But the Ram Mandir situation has now become a little less of an issue, except in Uttar Pradesh, where the Kumbh Mela took place, and there's been a great resurgence of Hindu pride. But the Hindutva plank, the RSS and its Ram Mandir plan, all of that will, I think, be there, in a subconscious way, but it won't be upfront in the elections like national security and economic and development projects. So it will have a slightly diluted impact.
Tell me a little about what you feel Rahul Gandhi's impact will be on this election.
Well, Rahul Gandhi, I think, was on the front foot till about a month ago. For obvious reasons, he's now on somewhat of a back foot because the Congress and the opposition, the way they've reacted to the Baloch strike has not been exemplary. They've lost their footing on that particular issue, and therefore they switched their strategy around in the past couple of days. So I think Rahul Gandhi will have to discover a new issue. Going on about Chaukidar Chor Hai and the Rafale jet deal is not going to work. They're barking up the wrong tree, and Rahul is showing immaturity in doing this. And the fact that he's a dynast, and the fact that dynasty is not only feudal but is intrinsically a bad thing. And people say, oh, dynasty, you get elected, that's fine, therefore how is it dynasty? Well, it is dynasty because in public life, as opposed to other professions, law, business, accountancy, acting, in public life you're supposed to have an obligation to widen the public choice that's available to the electorate. By having dynasty and this feudalism, you narrow that choice, and therefore you're not fulfilling your obligation as a public figure. And then people say, oh, but everyone has dynasty. Every party, SP, RJD, DMK, etc., the NCP. But again, they don't say what they should say, which is that the Congress pioneered it. And all these parties, are following in the footsteps of the Congress, from Indira Gandhi, etc., Sanjay Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, and maybe Robert Vadra. So they're following in their footsteps. And if Indira Gandhi, and indeed Nehru, who made Indira Gandhi the Congress president in 1959, if they had not pushed dynastic politics forward, then other parties wouldn't have either. They would not have had that example. So these are two areas of feudalism about public life, where the obligation is to widen choice, not narrow it, and the fact that the Congress pioneered dynasty and therefore did a great disservice to our democracy. As far as Priyanka Gandhi is concerned, because I know that may be the next question.
That is.
Yeah, I know Priyanka Gandhi is the X factor. Till about a month ago, she was very visible, and she was, building momentum in East Uttar Pradesh and all over the country. She's going to have to rework that. There's only a month left, so there's not much impact that she will have. But you can't, no one can take anything for granted, because the Indian voter is unpredictable. The kind of situation we are in right now in terms of the politics of terrorism, the politics of, jobs and sort of media polarization that we have. In that situation, things are unpredictable, and you cannot discount Priyanka Gandhi Vadra's impact. It might be not significant, but it certainly will have an impact, and they've protected her from any kind of negative outcome by saying, look, she's here not to win this election particularly, but in a broader way to make the Congress party more resurgent. And she's a long-term player. So if she does badly in this election, if the Congress doesn't do very well in this election, which is likely to be the case, then Priyanka will be protected from any kind of negative feelings that might arise. That's as far as she's concerned.
What are your issues about the Mahagathbandhan? Is it gaining strength?
Look, the Mahagathbandhan, Vatsala, the main issue, which everyone knows, is lack of a leader. When you have Mamata Banerjee, who wants to be Prime Minister, when you have Mayawati, who's not happy with that, when there's Rahul Gandhi, who wants to be Prime Minister without ever having had a job in his life in terms of a proper job, minister in the cabinet, chief minister, he's completely inexperienced, just the surname. So when you have that kind of situation, then things might just not work out.
Finally, the electoral math.
Yeah, I think on the electoral math, we've got to be quite careful. You see, basically there are 9 states which matter for the BJP. These are 5 in the north and the west. That's Haryana, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. And there are 2 big states, the 2 biggest in the country, that's Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra. And then there are 2 key states in the east, that's Bihar and Bihar and Jharkhand. Now, in these 9 states, 2 Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, the 5 north and west as I mentioned, 2 in the east. There are about 283 seats in the Lok Sabha, which these states account for. And in the 2014 election, the BJP got 223 seats out of 283. This time, I think because they had saturated whatever they could get, 26 out of 26 in Gujarat, 25 out of 25 in Rajasthan, 27 out of 29 in Madhya Pradesh, 71 out of 80 in Uttar Pradesh. When you are saturated to that extent, you're going to lose. And the kind of atmosphere of nationalism and counter-terrorism that's built up will not help to the extent that they can make up the losses. So what are the losses likely to be in these 9 states? My reckoning is that if they'd got 223 out of 283 5 years ago, they're going to lose 70 seats and come down to 153 out of 283. So a huge loss of 70 seats. They'll make that up in 2 ways. One, in the Northeast, despite this citizenship amendment, which has now lapsed, the bill, despite the anger in the Northeast, they've got 8 seats in the past out of the 25, including Sikkim. They'll probably get 15. So there'll be a slight increase there. In West Bengal and Odisha, they'll be able to get more seats, maybe 15 or 20. In the south, not very much, except in Karnataka. So overall, they'll be able to make up from the 70 seats about 20 to 25, which means that the net loss in these in the elections overall would be about 50 seats. So they go down from 282, 2014, to about 230, 232. But then you come to the T factor, the terrorism factor, the N factor, the nationalism factor. And that has to have some kind of impact. There is a wave, whether it's a Modi wave 2.0, we don't know. But there is some sort of wave building up. Whether it lasts right up to the elections in April and May, we don't know. But common sense tells you that it probably will. So what will be the impact of that wave on the electoral math and the chemistry? Because Modi's a good orator. I reckon it could be anything between 25 to 50 seats. So it'll lift the BJP, which would have fallen short of majority, 225 seats, losing a net of about 50, so 230 seats. They'll go up by about 30 to 50 seats approximately. Take a mean figure of about 40 seats, just around the threshold of 272. And then you have the allies in the NDA. The JDU, which will get a fair number of seats in Bihar. Shiv Sena, which will also get a good number in Maharashtra. And then the Anna DMK in Tamil Nadu, which may or may not do very well. They've got a couple of alliances, but not that many. The DMK will get the majority seats of the 39 in Tamil Nadu. And then the Akalis may be completely wiped out in Punjab. The LJP may get a little bit, Paswan group. So among these 5 allies, and there are basically 5 among the major ones, the NDA will pick up about 35 seats, which means that they can go from 270 to about 300 in terms of the NDA. So it's a clean majority, not 360 that they had 5 years ago, 300. The BJP 260, 270, 275, 280. But if the wave dissipates, you could go back down to the 230s and 240s. And if the wave builds, which I reckon it will, because that's again commonsensical, then anything can happen. And people say, not people, but there are lots of ground reports which say that small towns, villages, even the bigger towns, there is an incipient and silent wave due to these terror attacks. And that can only help Modi. So it could go beyond what I projected. It could go a little below, but the mean sort of mathematics would be in the region of 270-ish for the BJP alone and 300-ish for the NDA. But with a caveat. Could be minus, unlikely. Could be plus, again, a little bit. you can never say how people vote in this country.
Minaz, since in the last week, there are many questions that have come in. I've selected just a couple, which I'd like you to deal with, please. The first is from Partha Krishnaswamy.
Yeah.
He says, should India open a Baloch diplomatic mission?
Yeah, it's a good question, but I believe that after the Prime Minister in 2015, during his speech from Red Fort, parts of Red Fort, talked about Balochistan. After that, there was no movement whatsoever, and a lot of people from Balochistan, in which there's a big insurgency going on, have been very disappointed by the Prime Minister's lack of action. I personally feel that we should use the Baloch card far more effectively and far more robustly than we've done so far. The way that Pakistan is sponsoring, funding, arming the insurgency in Kashmir is horrendous, and it's been doing it for 30 years now. So I think the fact that our covert capabilities in Pakistan were completely abandoned by I.K. Gujral, the Prime Minister, in 97, 98, and Mr. Vajpayee, the Prime Minister, after that, between 1998 and 2004, did not replenish those capabilities. It was really bad for our security. So I think that the Baloch question is an important one. We should support the Baloch people. We should have seminars. We should have their representative, whether it's a diplomatic mission in Delhi or other things. I think that Balochistan is a key to engaging in the sort of covert action that we haven't done so far. So yes, I do believe, to answer the question, that we should have a diplomatic or some sort of representation from the Baloch rebels on our soil, and we should give up this. We should abandon this, fear that, oh, we will upset Pakistan. They upset us every second of the day with terrorism. Like today, there was the Jammu bus stand attack, and so on, and people have been killed. So we are entirely within our rights. Don't forget, Balochistan was not part of the independence of India in 1947. It was called Kalat, and it was an independent country right up to May 1948. That's when the Pakistan army, seized it by force. So it was a separate country, Balochistan. It's a complicated question, but yes, I think that we should make far more proactive moves on Balochistan than we have done so far.
The next question is from Anand V. He first, of course, comments that the last video was very insightful.
Thank you.
His question is that there are many, as he calls them, traitors, Pakistani supporters in our midst, but no action can be taken against them legally. Where are the loopholes? How do we fix it?
Vatsala, the thing is that we know that there is a cabal of people who are subverted by the ISI. They get money, they get junkets, they get largesse in cash and kind. They comprise journalists, ex-bureaucrats, ex-intelligence officials, activists, and people of all different from all different fields, and they are supported by the Pakistani intelligence services. So there is a great deal of subversion, planted stories, and so on and so forth. But to take action against them would actually be counterproductive, because in any country, a democracy, we're not China, we're not Pakistan, you've got to let opinion have a completely free reign. The cliche that the answer to a book is a book, the answer to an article is an article, the answer to this sort of treachery is not treachery, except in Balochistan, but you can't call that treachery. I call that covert action. You've got to expose these people. There's no legal thing, but wherever possible, name them, shame them, and cut their links to the ISI and to other subversive agencies to the extent possible. And then the public itself will turn against them in terms of a public opinion. And this whole thing, which I'd like to point out about the equivalence that a lot of commentators make between India and Pakistan. It's always India-Pakistan. It's been dehyphenated, but there are Pakistani scholars who write for Indian magazines and newspapers. There are TV commentators both in India and in other countries. There are American think tankers, many of them of Indian origin, who go on and on about, India, Pakistan, nuclear powers. Look, North Korea is a nuclear power. Israel is an undeclared nuclear power. Pakistan's economy is 1/10 of India's. Pakistan's foreign exchange reserves are 1/40th of India's. Our foreign exchange reserves are about 400 billion. There's $8 billion, American dollars. And the economy, as I said, is 10% of India's economy, GDP. So this whole equivalence, even the military, that's 1/3 of our budget, defense budget. There is no equivalence. So when people talk in terms of, India and Pakistan, let's not do anything that would, upset them. We should be far more robust. I'm not saying we should be adventurous, but we should be far stronger in our approach to Pakistan and to completely demolish this false equivalence that journalists who've been subverted and other former officials in the defense ministry and there's a whole ecosystem which has been there and has corroded our narrative for decades. We cannot let them get away with this false narrative, and the only way to combat it is not legally or to do anything harsh, but to expose, to name, to shame, and to turn public opinion against them so they get exposed, and eventually what they try and do in terms of false narratives and this false equivalence between India and Pakistan is cut short.
Thank you so much, Vinas.
And thank you, Vatsala. Thanks, Vatsala. And thank you for watching. We'll be back next week and hope to see you then. And we're going to introduce some millennial voices along with Vatsala, a couple of young people who have questions to ask, many of them who don't like Modi and the BJP, and some of them who like him and the BJP. So we're going to have an exchange of views because that's the only way to go forward. You cannot live in an echo chamber. You've got to have a democratic exchange of views. So thank you for being with us, and we'll see you shortly. Thank you.